everybody. Chad, thank you so much for our partnership between BIC and Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. I was Chad, I was thinking how long we've been doing this, but it was at least like 3 or 4 LSU national titles ago. I think.
I told him this morning.
Quite sure. Maybe.
I told him this morning, LSU just falls backwards into national championships, and we can't snag one anywhere. So congratulations again on the baseball.
We will debate this later. Thank you, Chad. I'm very excited to be here, guys, and we have a championship panel today with us today. And I'm going to go through our wonderful panel here in just a second. Just real quick, I am Jeremy Osterberger, President and CEO of BIC Alliance. And of course, we have 3 entities within our organization: BIC Magazine, BIC Recruiting, and IVS Investment Banking, which helps companies through sell-side M&A. So thank you for allowing me to give that shameless plug. And a second here, I'm going to introduce our panelists, but I want to discuss what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to cover insights from these individuals' current roles and responsibilities. We're going to dig into what they're doing as far as projects. We're going to get into workforce development and how they're addressing and executing engineering, procurement, and construction projects across multiple industries, which is changing and expanding. So you're going to hear about practical tips on how service providers, vendors, and suppliers in this room can support them in their safe, efficient, and project delivery needs, ultimately driving value to the owners and operators that they serve. We're also going to get into tariffs on material costs and the impact of material cost and availability. And we're going to talk about how digitalization and emerging technologies are transforming the EPC landscape. Hey, reminder, we do have the Slido app. We welcome you guys to participate at IPF-C 2025. And look, feel free to mock your panel moderator and throw digital insults. It's okay, I can take it. So, all right, guys, so let me introduce our panelists. We've got John Goloszewski, Senior Vice President of Turner Industries. Thank you so much, John G., for being here. We got Zach Weimer, Infrastructure Supply Chain for Fluor. We've got Mr. James Soria, Procurement Manager for Hargrove Engineers and Constructors, and Kent Danforth, backed by popular demand, Senior Vice President and Chief Procurement Officer at SNB. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists, folks. Thank you. So, John, I'm going to give you the first shot at this. Can you explain kind of your current role, responsibilities? Just kick us off with a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, and appreciate being here. So, as Senior Vice President at Turner Industries, my role for 25 years here in Houston, I was with our company in Baton Rouge prior to that, is overseeing our construction projects. We are a $3 billion a year company. We employ 20,000 people every day, working through the industry, the Gulf South, and across the United States, and overseeing our major projects, everything from basically making sure that our projects come in safely and on time for our clients. That's quite a mouthful. Currently, we have some large projects going on, but looking at and reviewing our contracts and negotiating our contracts, and looking closely, talking about procurement. I know we'll get into that much more later, Jeremy, but how, when we are given a scope of work, and in today's marketplace, the way decisions are being made in the marketplace with long-term investments by the clients, the procurement side of things and how deliveries that we as a contractor are bidding on. And I want to make it clear, we are not an engineering company, and by full disclosure, I am not a procurement manager, never been a procurement manager, but I hope to provide some insight as to how the procurement chain, affects our projects. But once again, our projects, we self-perform 90% of our work on our construction projects. We do deal with vendors, suppliers, of course, workforce development, but most of the work we do is self-performed, but working closely with their owners and the gentlemen on the stage, we work with their companies. So how procurement ties in is ultimately important. We negotiate, out of our Baton Rouge office, long-term contracts with those suppliers that we use every day, but our spend, with outside vendors and material suppliers on an annual basis is approximately $900 million. The vast bulk of what we do is labor, but be happy to pass along some other questions later.
A little bit about John, folks. John got back from the ABC 75th anniversary gala this week. So thanks, John, for being here. And also a couple things about John that you may not know. He's the current chairman of the board of directors for the Associated Builders and Contractors of Greater Houston. He's a founding member of the Industry Advisory Board for the University of Houston Construction Management Program, and also heavily engaged in workforce development through CMEF and previously on ECMA's Petrochem Work Steering Committee. So thank you, John, again for being here. And now, Zach, tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And first of all, thanks for having us here today. It's a pleasure. So 18 years at Fluor, started in the engineering side and then held various project engineering roles, and then been in supply chain now for about the past 8 years. As soon as supply chain got exciting, I joined the team at Fluor. So I look after our line of business for infrastructure. The way we're organized, we've got supply chain leaders for all of our different lines of business, and been looking after infrastructure now for about the past year.
And a little bit about Zach. He has 6 kids. Is that correct, Zach? That's quite a bit. Are they here? Is there like 2 tables? What do we have? So Zach, what's the oldest and the youngest, man? Give us their ages.
So the youngest is 3, going on 18, and the oldest is 16.
So you like biking and hiking with the kids. You single-handedly fund the biking sales in the city of Houston with these children.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, man. Awesome. I had to throw that in for you. So, James, talk a little bit about your role with Hargroves Engineers and Constructors, if you would.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. But my role is about 10 years ago, I joined Hargrove and started the supply chain, department for initially was the Houston office. And as we continued to expand along the Gulf Coast, we expanded out into Pasadena, also into Angleton. But also we added our Beaumont and Lake Charles office. So all of our role over at Hargrove in the Houston office is to execute those projects for those offices. But we're not tied, as we say, to 225 and 288, but we go wherever the project is. And so we execute these projects, and we like to look at partnerships when we look at supply chain and all of our vendors and contractors, subcontractors. So we don't have the tools, we don't have the construction phase of it. We do construction management, so subcontracts comes into play very heavily with our organization, and so we look to grow and continue the market as we partner with many of our contractors. I see a couple of familiar faces here, so we continue to grow and we continue to expand as we have across the nation. So appreciate the time being here today.
James, that ring is glimmering. Tell us about that ring on your finger there.
I get that question a lot. So my oldest son is the head football coach over at Madison High School, where a guy named Vince Young went to school. And so over the past 10 years in his high school coaching career, I do the stats for him. So I get to, when he first started coaching in 2006, it was St. Pius High School over on the north side. He won a state championship. And the second year, they won back-to-back in 2007. So he gifted me one of the rings, and I wear it with a lot of pride. And so he's grown throughout the coaching ranks. He just recently spent his first year of a 2-year internship with the Houston Roughnecks, coaching on the sideline with them. So very, very much proud of what he has accomplished over the past couple of years.
Look at that. Proud dad. I love that, James. That's great. Hey, one thing about James, Hargrove Engineers and Constructors has a Lone Star Classic golf tournament just happened last week, of which James is the co-chair. If you want to comment on the charity, go ahead, James.
It was a great event. Many of our suppliers and our vendors and our clients joined us. I know my co-directors out in the crowd, Tim McGallagher, who runs our Angleton office. We faced a lot of challenges, but this is a record year, and we thank everyone for coming out who supported us.
Thank you, James. All right, so up next is Kent Danforth, Senior Vice President and Chief Procurement Officer for S&B. So, Kent, have at it, my friend.
Well, how's everybody doing today? Doing all right? First of all, I want to thank all of the exhibitors out here. That's a lot of work to come set up and put this on, so thank you, and thank you for everybody for coming. It's real simple at S&B. My role as the Chief Procurement Officer is pretty much to help the jobs get kicked off, then get the hell out of the way. Let the people who know what they're doing do their job. Delegate. because somebody did that for me one day and it helped me along the line. You know, I look out here and I always try to focus on somebody when I'm talking that, try to find someone pretty good looking and say, I'm going to focus there so I don't get nervous. And I'm scanning because there's a lot of good looking people out here today. Holy smokes. And then I look for people older than me and I don't see anybody. So, at S&B, you know, everybody knows what we do. We're an EPC contractor, lump sum engineering procurement. The P does stand for procurement, just so everybody knows, and constructors. We do full-on construction. We do only E. We do only P. We do only C. Sometimes we put it all together. We have some really nice clients. Sometimes we work with these folks here as well. We joint venture or we team up. There's a lot of opportunity out there in the world right now. I know it's a little sketchy right now. I can't believe we're going to talk about tariffs. I'm hoping to learn something here today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kent's our resident Yankee. He's from the Northeast and also started his career in the Army. So thank you, Kent, for that.
Yeah,
for your service.
everybody's the Army, right?
Go ahead and cheer for that. And he survived the last panel, so that's good. All right, for EPC projects, guys, sound procurement is foundational. It's not just about cost. It's about mitigating risk, ensuring safety by securing materials as designed, and sourcing contractors that can perform at expected levels. While lower-cost contractors might seem appealing, they often demand significantly more management. I'm going to start with you, John. Would you give our attendees a little short overview about, how Turner's procurement department is structured and a little bit about your vendor qualification process?
Sure thing. Thank you, Jeremy. So our procurement, we have a procurement department in our Pasadena office, which is the largest regional office we have for the company, headquartered in Baton Rouge. But primarily, the procurement is done at the corporate headquarters. But when we take on projects, again, as strictly as a contractor, the engineered or tagged items, as it were, are provided either by the owner or by the engineering company. So we are providing the bulks. We fabricate pipe. We are a very, very large pipe fabricator. We build modules, have been doing that for 40 years. So, we're looking at, we purchase for procurement the bulks, what is called bulks, the concrete, the civil materials, the shorts on piping, and so on and so forth. But again, the tagged items are coming from the engineer or the owner. So when we are bidding a job, if we were given the quantities and in today's marketplace, getting a set of IFC drawings to bid a job is a glory. You don't get those too often anymore. We are typically bidding projects from quantities. And when you get a large project, whether it's a modest size or when you're dealing with a project that can be, even up to the millions of man hours of work in the field, there's a lot of material. And just piggybacking on something that Danny said about every decision is important, every purchase order is important. I mean, when you sequence the work, it's a contractor's responsibility to the owner to deliver, the project on schedule and cost. I mean, that goes without saying. So often, a project goes from being cost-driven to schedule-driven, and sometimes they want both. So when you're dealing in the quantities of material that are coming into the site, and they're coming from not only all across the United States, but internationally, it's quite a challenge to sequence everything. And when you're getting shipments that come in, knowing every single widget, so to speak, is there in the sequence that's needed. A lot of that is built into our planning and scheduling. But again, back to the biggest commodity we deal with is piping. Any process plant is approximately 40% and sometimes more is your piping materials. And again, the big tagged items, are provided, and we're buying the bulks and making sure you've got, we do what's called a bulk buy. You'll try to buy 80% of the pipe valves and fittings and gaskets and so on to have your adequate quantities, and the same thing on electrical materials and so on. But as you move through the plant and through the sequence of work, there's always growth, there's always change orders, and getting that material and having it again sequenced and knowing, all the particulars when we are being provided material by an owner or an engineer, that we have all the data we need. Within that, it's not just the delivery of the material, it is the drawings and specifications, so we know how to install that properly, that all comes into delivering a schedule and cost certainty on a project. But once again, we will requisition the material at our, if it's a project here, out of our Pasadena office or the various offices we have around the United States, and we work as far west as Salt Lake City, as far north as Minneapolis, and outside Pittsburgh. So, we work around the country, and once again, we rely on accurate data as much as possible for the procurement needs on the projects.
Thank you, Mr. John. So, Zach, let's hear about Fluor and sort of how the procurement departments are structured, if you would.
Yeah, certainly. So the overall supply chain structure at Fluor, we have a chief procurement officer who's a direct report to our CEO. We segregate supply chain into subcontracts and material management. And within subcontracts and material management, we have business line leaders, but we are a global company. We have office here in Houston, Greenville, California, Calgary, and then all over the world. So it may be a Houston-based project, but you may be dealing with somebody in Canada or Mexico or in India. So, we are centralized leadership, but then we do dispersed execution for all of our projects.
Thank you, Zach. James, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about Hargroves and how you guys are set up from a procurement department perspective.
As I mentioned earlier, we'll go wherever the project is, but one of the things is getting aligned with our client and knowing what the project is about and being executed at a high level. A lot of times we look at schedule, we look at costs. It's two things: quality and being able to meet the demands of what the clients are looking for and their expectations. So it's a challenging world right now across the board. And you have to roll with the punches, so to speak, to be able to adapt and overcome whatever's thrown at you. So we structure to, we monitor pricing, we monitor trends and things like that, and we communicate that with our clients so they understand. And that's one of the things we really push. As I say, it's three things: communicate, communicate, communicate. We want to be aligned, and we want to be able to execute and be able to meet that demand that clients have.
And Kent, on to you, if you would spend a little time telling us about how you guys approach procurement.
So at S&B, it's a kind of a three-headed monster. We have materials management, procurement, which is purchasing mainly with expediting and such, and we have subcontracts department. It's kind of, it's very similar to everybody else's system. We do things a little differently. I think in the last 10 or 15 years, our biggest focus is making sure not only do we get a seat at the table with our clients, but we get a seat at the table within our company. People forget that P sometimes. You hear people say we're an E&C company. Man, I'm not sure what the E and the C bought, but I think it's the P that did it. So we've got us a seat at the table now, and with that, you have to perform. So we have very good professionals. I'm trying not to look over here because they're all sitting at the table. We have good professionals who know their job, they know who to speak to, and know when not to speak and when to speak, and tell them we can do that. We bring in suppliers that can perform. I know everybody talks about delivery is king and quality, and of course we used to say safety, quality, delivery, price, but let's not fool ourselves. The industry's turning. Price matters to people. So yeah, we do look at price. That's more prevalent in the last couple of years. But as far as procurement goes, we need all y'all. We don't make pumps. We don't make bolts. We don't make gaskets. We don't do pipe. We buy that. We purchase that. So we need people like you to be professional and provide us a good quality product. And we just try to staff professionals that know what they're doing. Like I say, I try to get out of the way and let them do their job.
Ken, I'm going to stick with you. Our attendees today are interested in supporting your projects through their service offering. Can you tell us kind of about what current projects are underway, at S&B, or are there projects which you're sourcing materials for at this time?
Sure. Our main clients are, we're sitting in Lyndale, right? Phillips 66, Enterprise, Energy Transfer Partners. We're doing some construction-only job with Exxon. We're trying to get a little bit more diverse, doing engineering only. We probably have 20 or 30 different alliances with engineering firms. And I know they're smaller jobs, but engineering jobs turn into construction jobs. So when you do construction, we need to buy stuff. So we have a total engineering team, couple thousand deep. We were close right at COVID. The week before COVID, we had 9,971 employees with 35 people starting on Monday. Put us over 10,000. COVID kind of kicked everybody in the shorts. So we're trying to build that back up and do it the right way. We just try to work with our clients, try to find new clients. I think the biggest thing that we try to do is everybody in the company is in business development. Everybody can find somebody that has a friend that knows of a job that they can take on, or at least put the right person in the right spot. It's all about communication. Everybody here knows somebody. Somebody here has a neighbor with one of those companies I just mentioned, guaranteed. And if you don't, get out and know your neighbors. They're there. They walk amongst us. Those clients walk with us. So that's just kind of what we try to do. We try to be part of the team, part of the solution, and just try to work with our clients. Remember, it's what they need, not what we can do.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. James, I'm going to go to you. Tell us about any current projects Hargrove has at this time, or perhaps some projects for which you're sourcing materials.
Well, right now we're finishing up a project, and we partnered with our good friends over here at Turner over in Baytown, Texas. It's called Arcanum Robin Project. We're on the final touches where we're starting commissioning and startup on it. That project has been a challenge in itself and the expansion of the unit, but at the end of the day, it's a very unique project with the product that they're going to be making out of it, and it ties in with ExxonMobil. So we're on the final phases of that. It's been, over the last couple of years, it's been a really trying to find the right vendors has been, and suppliers has been somewhat of a not a challenge, but just making sure the schedule and then also materials. But in addition to that, earlier this year, we finished up a project for ExxonMobil over in the Beaumont area, the NAFTA splitter. I want to say it was we received the 2024 ExxonMobil President Award for Safety Award for Excellence. So we just finished that one up at the end of February, and so we take that with a very high accomplishment, especially with a company like ExxonMobil. But some of the existing projects that we have right now, as I'm overseeing right now, is a bromine plant up in southwest Arkansas that is starting to, at this time, we're doing the engineering, getting that aligned and getting proposals. But as you know, everyone is understanding the way the market is today. So we're really pushing. We have a couple other projects that, as I said earlier, we don't just tie ourselves. We have a couple of our project procurement leads that are executing projects out of our Baton Rouge office and even out of our Philadelphia office. So we're staying very, very busy in this competitive world that we have right now.
That's right. Zach, if you would, share a little bit about where Fluor is at as far as current projects or maybe some projects coming up that you need some of these folks in the room to help you with.
Yeah, definitely. We continue some really exciting projects with some major clients. Eastman Chemical up in Longview, working with Dow in North America. Continue some strong projects with Marathon. Everyone thinks this Fluor is like big, multi-billion-dollar projects, but no project is too big, no project is too small either. We love working on small cap projects. We've got a dedicated team for that here in the Houston area. Sort of industry-wide as an EPC company, still very strong overall market. We're doing a lot of work in the pharmaceutical space, doing a $6 billion investment with Eli Lilly up in Indianapolis, seeing some strong prospects with Novo Nordisk. On the data, AI side, Intel, Microsoft are still really big clients of ours. We're monitoring the power industry. We were talking about wastewater earlier. There's about to be huge demand for electricity and water supply for a number of different industries. We're strong in the nuclear space. We're tracking a very long list of upcoming nuclear work. Also, another exciting project for us here in the Houston area is we're proud to say we were shortlisted for a bid for the next segment of the Grand Parkway on the south side of Houston. That's a $2 billion investment, and you think of it's a road project, big deal. Well, $2 billion of road project, that's how your workforce gets into the Gulf Coast. That's how your products get transported out So we're very excited to be pursuing that project and hopefully lock that down at the end of the year.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate that. Yeah, John, James mentioned the Arcanum project, but go ahead, talk a little bit about what Turner's got going on.
Yeah, certainly. So just tying back to what James said, we worked together with Hargrove on that Arcanum project, and just an interesting note on that project, as James mentioned, ultimately ties into Exxon, and we were also doing a project for Exxon in Huntsville. That project and the one we wrapped up at Arcanum in Baytown both provide products that will go to a facility that makes gator bar. If you know what gator bar is, it's a monomer resin rebar. I'd never seen it before, but that is what this is all about, so it's very, very interesting. We completed, or just on the very final stages of wrapping up, a very significant project in Freeport for Dow Chemical on a plastics plant. Can't get into the details on it, but that was significant with a workforce close to 800. We have many other projects going on in the LNG sector in Louisiana. The project that was just mentioned with Eastman, that is one that we are also participating in a very early stage. As we all know, with what's going on in the economy, with these projects getting paused or shifted, that has some bearing, but a lot of projects are being looked at. We are bidding work. In Kansas, there's some significant projects that, we're on the bid list for. A very interesting project. Our clients have taken us, we work for so many of the majors and have for so many years, and Carrari is one of our clients. We do a lot of maintenance work. We have, 100 maintenance sites that we work throughout the United States, but we're working up for Shell Chemical on their major plastics plant that was built in the Pittsburgh area. So our clients have brought us around the country. Marathon has brought us up to El Paso, Salt Lake City, and Minneapolis. So these are work we're doing both on the project side, small cap, and turnarounds. But currently, the largest project we have going on right now is in LaPorte for OxyChem. It is what's called the Redstone Project. It is in excess of $1 billion. It is a chlorine and caustic soda facility that will both improve their, it's a mandated project. It is converting from a diaphragm to a membrane cell technology, but it will also increase their capacity. So we have 1,250 on site right now. We have not reached peak. We're approximately 30% complete. And while we are overwhelmingly self-performing, that is a project as the general contractor. We have more subcontractors on that project than we typically would, but nonetheless still, 85, 90% self-performing. But a lot of material we are providing. We've got subcontractors that are also providing material. So a very interesting project for a client of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate everyone contributing to that question. So, Kent, I'm going to go to you. We didn't really hear the word tariffs too much prior to January 20th, 2025. With all the tariff uncertainty, have clients been reluctant to kick off projects? And I guess just what are we seeing and what are we hoping for the next half of this year?
Well, I want to segue. First of all, I live off the Grand Parkway. And for all of you that when there's a big backup, Zach's handing out cards later, you can give him a call.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Zach, for that. I'll be calling you in traffic, dude. Tariffs. Everybody gets scared about tariffs. We had them in 18. Remember, if you remember right, there was a different president back then, too. No, it's the same guy, but that's okay. I use the two words. I use patience and panic. Be patient and don't panic. Somebody asked me, I was with a client, it was April 4th. They said, oh my gosh, April 2nd came, we got all this stuff, what's gonna happen? I don't know, give it a week, I don't know. If anybody else knows what's happening, pin me to the wall and tell me. All you can do is adapt and not panic, walk it through, be honest with your clients. We have clients that say, hey, what are we doing with the tariff stuff? When we buy something, we S&B, we try to buy as much as we can local. I like local. I like Texas. I like Oklahoma. I like Louisiana. I'll even go as far as Massachusetts and Maine if I have to, because that's God's country. But we try to keep as much local as we can. Sometimes our clients direct us to go. You know, we work with some big clients like everybody does. You know, you start talking about the Ferraris of the world, the JGCs, the Shells, the Marathons. These are global companies. We have to be honest with our clients and tell them there's a potential for tariff. If anybody in this room has it nailed, you're the first person. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Just do a lot of research. Read all you can read, unless you live in Washington, D.C., and then you still don't know anything, okay? And it's tough. It's tough. Just adapt, roll with the punches. Try not, I use this as an analogy. I was looking to buy a new car in May, and the guy said, you need to buy this car now before I have to put a tariff on it. And I looked at him and said, that car is sitting here. There's no tariff on that car. He goes, well, we're going to tariff it. Not this car, you're not, okay? And people think about the replacement. Well, the replacement may have a tariff on it. We've seen some ugly stuff happen where, you know, we have $2 million worth of material and the tariffs are $3 million. You've got to be honest with your owners. They know. Just be honest with them and be honest with your management and let them know. But I can tell you, anything made in Texas, 99% of the time doesn't have a tariff on it.
Thank you, Kent. James, would you dig into kind of what you're hearing from your customers as far as tariffs?
Well, similar to what Kent's saying, a couple of weeks ago I was speaking to a supplier in my office, and he says, yeah, I had an order that's ready to get shipped, $5 million worth of equipment, but the tariffs were $7 million. I said, what'd your client do? Put in storage. We'll wait to see what happens. I said, good luck. No one has the timeline. So that's the big elephant in the room is like, what's going to happen? We just don't know, and everyone's playing, watching and just monitoring. But it's, as Kent was saying, okay, if you don't want to do that, stick to your domestic fabricators and suppliers. That's going to be your. If you need it now, you need it in next year. You need your time frame that you're looking for your schedule. Stay domestic. You don't have to worry about, okay, is my ship going to make it across the pond? Is it going to get here on time? That's what we're hearing. That's what we're seeing. And we monitor that, and we're honest with our client, let them know. And so we want to try and push that, but at the same time, we're monitoring it very, very closely.
Zach at Fluor, I mean, how are tariffs impacting your clients?
Anything on the Grand Parkway, Zach? You got any update for us?
Well, yeah, actually, so it's interesting. You know, we do a lot of government work. A project I forgot to mention is we're doing maintenance, operations, and capital improvements to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at sites in Louisiana and Texas, which is a major project for the federal government that we're doing. But we've been able to rely on some of that expertise with Buy America experience to present clients with options that are fully domestic options. You got to be careful because some things like cars are assembled in the United States, but then you look down 2 or 3 levels into the supply chain and there's still tariff impacts, right? So being able to utilize some of that true mined, milled, and manufactured in the United States experience has been helpful in presenting clients with options. And that's what people want to see now is, what are my options? Okay, I can look at potentially lower cost, landed cost from overseas. Maybe you pay a little bit more for something that was truly mined, milled, and manufactured in the United States, but it's a little bit more certain, right? And I think that's what clients want to see, or what are the options in front of them. And projects that have a solid plan and kind of stick to it and don't panic, like Kent said, tend to be in the best shape right now. It's people who are trying to constantly react and shift and move things around are the ones that tend to be slowing things down.
Zach, are you seeing some clients put contingencies into contracts? I mean, what are you seeing?
Oh, absolutely. We're advising on contingencies, allowances. You've got to kind of build that into the plan these days. There's just, with that uncertainty, it's kind of a must in project execution, risk management, and then how you draw that down over the life cycle of the project as you work through procurement and into construction and those things, definitely.
John, any comments on tariffs from you?
Yes. Probably the biggest thing that we're dealing with tariffs, or at least advising our clients, And maybe I'm jumping ahead here on the schedule, talking about modularization, but we have been, as I mentioned, building modules for decades, both in Louisiana. We have a big yard also in New Iberia and Port Allen and Corpus Christi. But more and more owners are looking at, and it's a great thing, the engineering, to modularize not only pipe racks but units, entire process units. And when you talk about tariffs on a unit, and we had a major project we did several years ago in the Corpus Christi area with mega modules coming from China. Not only did the owner face a double tariff on that with a anti-dumping of steel, but also a tariff on the modules. But it turned out to be a good decision for the owner as far as getting the plant built. But coupled with the uncertainty of deliverables when you're moving modules across the ocean, whether it's from the Far East going through the Panama Canal or across South Africa, the tariffs is certainly an issue. But build in the United States, we could build modules, and other firms can build modules in the U.S., whether it's in the Gulf Coast or even up the East Coast. But it is talk about schedule certainty, made in America. The other thing on tariffs is just simply the price validity is ridiculous in some cases. Getting back to what Ken said about just being patient, but this price is good for 24 hours. I mean, typically we don't jump. We will advise our client if it's absolutely critical, but better to wait it out. So that's it.
And John, I think you're a profile on that Gulf Coast Growth Ventures project, that a partnership between SABIC and ExxonMobil, just for our audience's edification. Kent, you had a couple other comments.
Yeah, I was going to mention something I forgot. What we're telling our vendors, suppliers like yourself, is if you have a tariff price tag, if you're buying a widget and you say, hey, this is a tariff, we have no problem with it. But you got to tell us what the price is, and you got to provide the backup for that. We have people say, hey, it's $100 and we got $13 of tariff. It's $113. Where's the backup on it? Well, it's something. No. You just give us where you have it. Everybody wants to be fair, so just got to prove that the tariff was there.
Pulling some questions in from our audience. I'm going to tie a few together. With rising costs of materials and labor, are we seeing continued growth in modular construction and in-shop fabrication? If anybody wants to jump in and take that one, have at it.
Yeah, we continue to see demand for modular projects, definitely. All the benefits are still there in terms of moving the labor off-site, in terms of safety, quality, productivity. It's highly project dependent. You can't say that modularization fits every project and it's the key to everything, but there's still high demand for that. We're actually seeing that demand kind of move out of where it was been very strong in the petrochemical industry and actually move into, we're talking to data center clients about modularization and other industries. So it's, they have a different term for it. They call it off-site fabrication, and they use different terminology, but essentially it's modularization. We're still seeing that, definitely.
Any other comments, Kent or James?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, over the past 4 years, we were working with a client who wasn't doing the mega modular, but more on a smaller scale, so where they want to be more mobile, where if it was a plant that we were going to do out in West Virginia, and they wanted to be able to, if once they finished what they needed to do, they could move it. So we're seeing that kind of technology that's out there in the industry, where it's not the mega modular, but on a smaller scale, and where they're able to be mobile, so to speak. In this particular plant, the objective was to build the plant in West Virginia and have somebody in Dallas, Texas operate it. So it's a pretty unique approach. It is proprietary information that our client had, and they've taken it to several of the bigger companies to try to sell it, and they've been successful, but I know we have another one coming up pretty soon where it's a smaller scale and be able to put it on a truck and move it to wherever they need to go to. So that's the kind of approach that some of our owners are doing now.
A question from the audience here. How will the reinstated 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum, along with broader tariffs on lumber, impact any major projects coming up?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. Steel tariffs, obviously, steel is a huge industry. Nationwide, the projects that need to be built to support the economy can't be built with domestic steel. Import's always going to be a factor, right? But what's interesting is that we're seeing not just foreign steel that's imported being hit with tariffs, but domestic manufactured steel. It puts more demand on domestic mills when people start turning to domestic manufacturing. They're raising their prices. So tariffs are having a broad impact on price increases. Rebar, for example, you've seen Nucor, Gerdau, CMC all raise prices just 2 weeks ago on domestically manufactured rebar. So it is having a sort of a broad effect, but again, you've got to build that into the project plans. You've got to come up with strategies, buy early, lock in pricing, work with the clients on different approaches to help mitigate those.
You have to look at what history has shown as well. I know people are nervous about aluminum and steel, but when I looked at 2 years ago, we're still below that level. It just seems, I used to buy it for $5 yesterday, now it's 10, but 2 years ago it was 12. So just got to be patient and not panic.
Any other comments, guys? I want to get to something in our pre-panel discussion. There was kind of a moment of clarity where kind of everyone on the call sort of honed in on a necessity for project success, and that was early engagement. John, you had some comments on that. You said projects are made or lost in the beginning. I just want to give you a chance to talk about that.
Yes, projects are made or lost in the beginning. They're not made at the end. You don't want to be in a recovery mode. You don't want to be in a reactive mode. Constructability and early planning, early engagement between the owner, the engineer, and the contractor together to jointly take a project and work out a path of construction, understand the deliverables, and have a contract that works for everybody. The price and schedule certainty, they are intertwined. So trying to really work out what's best for the project, but putting together a small team from the contractor to work with the owners and the engineers' facilities, a superintendent, a construction manager, a couple of project controls planners, that is money well spent. And there was an article in the Engineering News Record in 2015, that really pointed that out. They gave, the study that IPA, what mega projects, mega project at that time was something over $700 million, and those below it, and the success or lack thereof, how it tied not only to early engagement, but working out, whether it's modularization. And let me make one point on that. We encounter projects that are, if they're going to be modularized, they need to be designed as modularization from the get-go. We've had projects where an owner has come to us after the fact, and they have a mile-long pipe rack, and now they want it modularized. Well, what sounds great, but it's actually going to cost more money and delay more time, which gets back to having skilled, the project we were talking about earlier, Jeremy, in Corpus Christi we did with Exxon, the GCGV. It was engineered in Taiwan, in Taipei. And we sent, not only these were mega modules that were up to 7,000 tons. They were 5 mega modules, really huge, up to 200 feet tall, very sizable. But our construction manager went there and actually looked at every interconnecting weld, where to put the welds, and work with the engineers and the modelers to determine where that weld should be made. And even though it may have taken, you're not going to have a 30-inch line that goes through multiple turns and have a perfect fit. So these are the kinds of things that come from skilled, experienced construction managers. And with all due respect to the engineers, these are the guys that build it. They know where the weld, how it could be made, and what's best for the project.
Anyone else want to jump in on the early engagement discussion? Okay, so guys, I want to cover this because I said we would. My introduction included discussion on digitalization, maybe AI and technology. Zach, I'm going to go to you on this. Are your clients demanding more digital transparency as far as project delivery, cost tracking, project milestone accountability?
Yeah, we're definitely, digitalization has been a topic now for a couple of years, right? And we're seeing that start to get into project execution more and more, but it's some of it I think is happening a little bit more naturally than a major step change right now in the industry. We're working through, our company went through a major initiative about 5 years ago to be a data-centric company. We went through, we call it Unison. We have data standards across the company. So whether a project is being engineered in Asia or the United States, everyone's working to the same data standards. It's helped a lot, and that's helped us adapt to client needs when they want data transfer, when they want to receive handover documents in a certain fashion, whether it's a model or a digital twin. But I think it's happening a little bit more naturally through the engineering process. I haven't seen anything that's revolutionary necessarily. We are seeing more implementation of AI, especially on the process side. Like I mentioned a project we're doing with Eli Lilly in Indianapolis. We know they worked with some AI companies for development of that drug. So we're starting to see that push a little bit more into the construction industry. It's certainly helping productivity on our side for certain tasks and things like that. Yeah.
James, any comments on the?
At Hargrove, we're getting involved with that. We're starting to get engaged because everyone's leading towards the AI, and we just had just not too long ago, we had a survey, and what we're seeing in the industry is that we're headed there. Get ready. That's where it's coming.
And Kent, where are you guys at?
AI is kind of scary for us old folks. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my BlackBerry plugged in, but yeah, we find our engineering group is really jumping into the fray, and for all of those old people out there like me, trust these young folks coming out of school, trust these 20-somethings, trust these 30-somethings. They really know what they're doing. You just got to give them a little pressure and let them do their thing. It's amazing what they can do, and it's a little scary, but if you just listen, they can teach us a lot. And we found that in the last couple of years that this is really where the future is, as we all know.
John, where is Turner at in its digital journey?
Well, we've been using digital information for years, and while we're not doing the engineering, really taking it to the field. A good example, using tablets. When we're working our crews on whether it's a small project, maintenance, turnaround, what have you, using a tablet and having our foreman, having that tablet, everything from the JSA, the quality steps, everything is on that tablet. And what it does so often, if you're investigating even an incident that, what happened here? Well, the foreman was going to the shack, going to the office to pick up some paperwork. We found that having that tablet in the field, right there, doing the JS, everything is quicker. It enables the foreman and the general foreman to be at the place of work and not having to chase things down. Changes can be made on drawings. They can be signed off at the spot. We can have an owner's rep or an engineer, look at something and say, hey, this is fine. Pull up an isometric drawing, turn over documents. This is huge. I mean, what the time it takes, you talk about building a facility, when it gets to not only the testing of your test packages, but the turnover is the handover of the mechanical integrity and the loop checks that are done. And over the years, that has gotten to be such a complicated chore. It seems much more than it used to be to build a plant. But having the tablets there jointly to do a walk with the owner's rep and the engineering company, if they are on site, and ourselves, that has been, I think, tremendous in improving at the end of the project when operations wants those turnover systems. They need the cooling water, they need this, that, and other. That's been very beneficial.
Thank you, Mr. John. Guys, we're about to wrap up the panel. I wanted to let everybody, if they want to, make some last comments. Ken, I'll start with you.
Sure, it's real simple. Safety. Nothing happens if we're not safe. That goes from the time you get out to your vehicle and drive to your workplace, to home, to work. If you're not safe, quality doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Everybody, please be safe.
James?
I'm going to echo that sentiment. Say it all starts with us, and and it's also with our clients. We utilize a one-team mentality. It's not only our client, it's not only Hargrove, but it's also our suppliers, our fabricators, and everyone else. That without the fabricators and suppliers, guess what? We have no equipment. So we appreciate the work that you do, and so at the end of the day, we want to go home to our families.
Zach?
Yeah, okay. Hard to follow a safety message. Absolutely, 100%. I'll add, our passion is building. We love to build projects. We love to help our clients improve their businesses. And we understand our subcontractors and suppliers are people, and we love those relationships. And we love to sit down with you, look you in the eye, and build that relationship. The last thing we want to do is stand behind a piece of paper, which is, purchase order, subcontract. It's a people business. It's about relationships.
And John?
Yeah, I would just add, safety notwithstanding being first and foremost, but, when you build a facility these days, we put together what's called a work package, and that, you're building safety into the work, you're planning safety, but you have to know the delivery of the materials. And we put, copies of the drawings, copies of the requisitions, everything goes into that work package, so when it's handed over to a foreman and his crew, he has everything he needs. And once again, you want to have obviously like to have what we call a 30-day restraint-free period where the materials are on site for that work before it's released to the crew. That doesn't always happen, but to have the facility done on time, it's not going to get done without the materials. Thank you.
Guys, sadly, the clock has ran out on our panel. We're getting the hooks from the Chads over here, so thank you so much for being here. Guys, let's give a round of applause to our panel. Thank you, gentlemen. And look, thank you for all of our attendees. Hey, come say hey after we get off stage, and we love making new friends, so thank y'all so much for being here.